This is Brian Young, Super Bowl champ, 49er. You're listening to Matt and Dexter on The Grueling Truth.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network. Brought to you by Gridiron Mo, Replenishing Technologies, and MyBookie.ag. I'm your host, Matt Andruscavage, and I'd like to welcome in my co-host at this time, former 49ers running back, Dexter Carter.
Hey, Matt. It's great as always to be with you, my man, and talk 49er football.
That's right. I feel the same way, and it was a little weird on Sunday not being able to turn them on, but we did have that early game last week on that Thursday game, which was very exciting. We talked about.
Yeah, it was definitely a way to go into this next week's game, extra time off and having a performance that really hopefully built confidence and, not only in the team, but in the support base. So I'm excited about if they're going to improve on what they've already done, which I surely believe they will. In the process, as we always talk about, we got to stay patient. But I think they're, other than being, 0-3, they're right where they need to be. They're progressing. We can eliminate some of these injuries and get injured players back. It would definitely help the cause as far as where we want to go and how much better and how quickly we want to get where we want to go.
Yeah, that's for sure. The nice thing was last year, you watch a number of the games early in the season, and especially as we got to the midpoint, they'd won their first game against the Rams on Monday Night Football, and then after that, it was just rough. They lost somewhat of a close game in Carolina, but then they had to play Seattle, and everything just kind of went downhill, and there was really no progressing. It was kind of just bad game after bad game. And so far what we've seen is the Niners have been in every game so far, and they could have won these last two. They've had opportunities, especially this last game where they only lost by 2 points. So the way I'm looking at it is, okay, we don't want to celebrate moral victories, as we talked about on the last show, because moral victories, well, that's usually for teams that aren't getting a lot of real victories. So we don't want to celebrate them. However, it is good to see progress. We can see, hopefully, the vision that Lynch and Shanahan have for the team and the players that are developing into their roles. You want to see that, and I love the fact that we're seeing a lot of fight out of the team, and they're not giving up, and they're playing hard to the end, and they're going to build on that, and they're going to find a way to get that first victory. And once they do, I think they're going to start moving forward, and hopefully they can really make this year count for something in the growth standpoint, and maybe even next year's compete for the playoffs.
Right. And historically what you've seen is teams that you look back and there's at least a high number of their games where they've lost by a touchdown or less. So that's when teams come back that next year and they figure out how to win those close games. And all of a sudden, they're, playing 700-plus football and, in the playoffs, giving themselves a chance at the biggest prize that there is in sports. So what they're doing and the progression that they're making, having a new coach, new culture, trying to get back to, some of the old days, they're right where they need to be. They're developing confidence, and that's coming at a great time because although they're winless in 3 games and they've been close games, now they begin the most difficult portion of the schedule. So, over the next 5 games, they play 4 games on the road, and when I looked at and did my research, man, I believe 4 of those games, 3 or 4, I believe, are 10 a.m. starts.
Yeah.
So I think that they'll prepare for that. That's what we used to do in the day based on the way how early we travel. So we try to adjust when we travel, when we get up, so we can be adjusted to that time zone. But they're doing what they have to do right now. because I like what the offense is doing. I like the way that they're developing. The toughest thing about this week, though, is I like the progression of Fourier. The offensive line is still a little questionable, but the 49ers are going against a seasoned quarterback. They got Larry Fitzgerald at receiver, who is running those intermediate routes about as good as anybody now. He doesn't have the speed he used to have, but they have speed guys on the outside. Now, the one good thing is they're trying to piece together the running game. So
right.
with our front seven, although we've lost Charity for a while, we still got some big time guys up there, so that can be in our favor. So there's some, but we still got to be focused, because going into a hostile environment, which I'm sure we'll talk about, against a veteran quarterback with receivers that can get downfield and spread the ball around, we got a challenge. But again, having confidence after this LA Rams game and the first couple of games, they've done enough to say, hey, we can go out here and compete with people, put ourselves in a position to win at the end of the ball game, and keep building on what Kyle Shanahan has put in motion already.
No question about it. This is, as we continue the rundown, the 49ers they're going to have about 10 days rest before they have to go play the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. The Arizona Cardinals are coming off a Monday night loss to the Dallas Cowboys. So they're on a short week. They're going to be missing most likely one of their key offensive guards, Alex Boone, former 49er. And, but like you said, the Arizona offense, if Carson Palmer has protection, that's going to be a problem, because he's a veteran quarterback. He actually had pretty good numbers against the Cowboys, because they didn't really pressure him a lot, until later. But, the 49ers also have like you said, a questionable offensive line, but the Cardinals also have allowed a lot of sacks those first three games. So there's a lot to look at here. Over the first 3 weeks, I think, we've seen a lot of growth. I think the defense can be counted on. I think they were gassed last week after playing almost 90 snaps against the Seahawks. Navarro Bowman said it really affected him coming, in that really short week trying to play against the Rams. So that was a little tough. But, after the rest now, I think they're going to be ready to play some defense. It'd be nice if Eric Reed and Reuben Foster and Tank Carradine were there, but those three guys are going to be out. Solomon Thomas will get extended playing time, and we'll see Ray Armstrong at the weak side linebacker, along with Jaquiski Tart starting at safety again. So it's good for those guys to get some reps and some growth. But we're going to see quite a lot of things on Sunday's game against the Cardinals. So what do you think are what are you looking at as a key matchup for that game?
Well, one of the key things, let me go back to what Bowman said, is coming out short week, Thursday game, and then playing on, Sunday, then playing on Thursday, correct?
Yes.
Then not only was it a short week, but it was the type of game it was. It's one thing your offense, I guess possession numbers way outweigh the opposing team, that keeps your defense on the bench. But when you have the fireworks that was with that 49er Ram game, the defense is out there, a whole lot. So when I think about it, that is over and beyond being exhausted. And then, for those 10 days, the 49ers really needed it on both sides of the ball. So, but now is no excuse, because, they had a great rest. They recuperated those that had concussion issues, are back. Guys have a longer period of time to get over other injuries. So now, going into the game against the Cardinals, I think key matchups, everybody's always going to focus on, in my opinion, they consider the weak part of the 49ers defense, and that's the secondary. And it's not a time for these guys to show their weakness, because, again, you got a veteran quarterback in Palmer. So whoever Fitzgerald is on, they better be ready to ball. Whoever's on these deep threats, so they can open up the intermediate game for Fitzgerald, to be hit by Palmer, they better be on their game because they're going to be tested, because they're going to throw, because their running game is not what it would be if their starting running back was in the game. So I think that's going to be the biggest matchup from an offensive perspective for the Cardinals and defensive passing game for us.
Yeah, I think the secondary is really going to be under the microscope this week. And that's also going to fall a lot on the front seven to, number one, early in the game, try to stop that run. I think the Cardinals will try to establish some kind of a running game early, but if the 49ers can really limit that, shut that off, and make them one-dimensional, that's where they can get after Carson Palmer. And you put pressure on Carson Palmer, and he is not the same guy. I mean, you could probably say that for about any quarterback that's got severe pressure. They're clearly not the same guy. But the one thing the 49ers do not want is to have Carson Palmer be able to effectively play action and then stand there and observe the field and find the open guy, because these receivers are fast. J.J. Nelson, Jerron Brown, and John Brown can all stretch the field. And then with Fitzgerald working underneath, it can be a difficult passing game to stop. But if there is pressure, then you definitely increase your chances.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's kind of picking your poison. You if Arizona comes out and tries to establish the run, you want to shut it down. Then if you put 8 people in the box and focus on shutting that run down, then you know what, you're asking for them to throw, which I guarantee you Arizona wants to throw. You know, they're going to run because everybody wants to have a balanced attack. But if they just completely shut it down and the 49ers get into a majority overloaded passing attack by the Arizona Cardinals, it's been shown so far, unless all of a sudden, you know, they grow up real fast in one game, Arizona's passing game could take real advantage of the deficiency of our secondary.
Right. You know, so
if they don't get the Palmer now, again, you made a great point. You know, our front seven, that's our strength. So if they're able to get to him, then you know what, and we're shutting the run down, then Kyle Shanahan just got to put points on the board at that time, or you just have to have a good game, give the ball to Hyde, let Hyde do his thing, and then the outcome of the game could be favorable towards the 49ers.
Right. I think the 49ers can win some of these matchups. The Arizona offensive line is not stellar. DeForest Buckner has been relatively, I guess in terms of Pro Football Focus ratings, he's been dominant. He's gotten more pressures than any other defensive tackle in the league. He's disrupting quarterbacks. And if Eric Armstead and Solomon Thomas and guys like Elvis Dumerville and Aaron Lynch can really get after Palmer, Palmer is prone to throw interceptions. He's done it his whole career.
True.
If they can pressure him and get some kind of an early turnover and make them kind of play from behind a little bit, that could really change the tide of the game. It can increase the chances of the 49ers being able to establish their ground game and make life difficult for Arizona. So hopefully we'll see. The front seven, to me, has to set the tone. If they can, stop the run with Bowman and get after the get the pass rushing going, I think that really could bode well for the secondary and the offense.
Absolutely. And Palmer, is known, he can get the ball out quick if he has to. But you mentioned about the number of pressures that has occurred. Sometimes it's better to put those, the pressure on him. You won't sack, but as long as you can get pressure on the majority of the plays and he gets the ball out of his hand quicker than he wants to,
right.
And you know what? The ball's going to come out before the receivers are ready for that ball. So as the season progresses, that's going to be key because this defensive front unit is going to get better as time passes. And that's, again, we talk about the strength of this defense. That's what it is. And at any point, they can explode and put the pressure they choose to on the opposing quarterback. So that will be key in this game. Not necessarily how many sacks they get, but how often would they put the pressure on Palmer and makes him get rid of that ball sooner than he wants to.
That's what we're looking for. I think if that happens, guys like Eric Armstead and Elvis Dumerville on third downs, if they can force third and long, and being able to use pass rushers like Aaron Lynch and Elvis Dumerville, and then also with Eric Armstead and Buckner, I mean, those are good pass rushing players. If they can get pressure, I gotta believe there's going to be at least one interception. That's what Palmer does, and that would be huge.
Absolutely, and it's interesting. You mentioned those three players right there. When you start putting pressure, and it's kind of like, we always talk about third down conversion. Offense got to convert on third downs. Defense, you got to stop. Third and whatever, and then them converting it. Any time that you can continue putting pressure and stop the number of plays that they have on drive, all of a sudden you can take those guys that can put their ears back and rush the quarterback. It will put favorable outcomes on the 49ers side with the talent they have on that defensive front and the pressure from those three guys. Oh man, the play calling. That's what I was trying to get to. Change the play call. You can just put them in and let them go get it, and all of a sudden, it becomes advantageous.
Right. That's really that could be really one of the keys to the game. So and I think as we switch over to the what happens when the 49ers have the ball, I think the turnovers that we've seen. Brian Hoyer's had one key interception in all three games. If they can avoid the turnover and just be efficient, hopefully Hyde can get close to 100 yards again. He's third in the league in rushing. He's pounding the ball very well, which is nice because that takes pressure off Brian Hoyer. If Hoyer can just hit a lot of short routes, try to extend the clock, keep the defense fresh, and maybe hit a couple of big plays to Garcon and Goodwin, as we saw against the Rams, it's going to be a challenge for them because, the Cardinals secondary is one of their strengths. I mean, Patrick Peterson's one of the best in the league, and Tyrann Mathieu at safety. Those guys are hard to throw on. So hopefully they can, hit some shorter routes and really be able to run the football, and we'll see how efficient that offense can be.
Right, Mathieu and Peterson is two of the best in the entire league. So, one, they're going to bring their A game. So, what Hyde has done, and hopefully he will continue to do, is going to be leaned upon heavily by these 49ers in this game because the passing game might not be so great because whoever Peterson is assigned to, no offense to that guy, but Peterson is going to probably shut him down. And Tyrann Mathieu he plays that secondary passing game very well, and he comes up at his size and tackles very, very well. Reminds me of Palomalo, from the Steelers a little bit. So they're going to be there. So we've got to pound that running game and get it going. But there's no doubt in my mind that Hyde, if they stick to it, and Kyle Shanahan, I hope he will stick to it, get some production from Hyde, and then Hoyer has to trust his pre-snap read. NFL defense secondary can change quickly after the snap, but he's got to trust his pre-snap read, especially on those quick passes. As you said, he's had two, early interceptions, that he could have really prevented. But he's got a pre-snap read, know where he can go, where he can't go, and trust the color of these uniforms, because that mustard color from the Rams should have told him, you know what, don't throw that way. So I don't know if Arizona's going to pin all red or not, or Cardinal or not. But you know what? Hey, if you're throwing a quick out and Peterson is on that guy, chances are you probably shouldn't throw to him. So it's going to be a lot of decision making, as always, from Hoyer. He can't make those early mistakes, and he surely can't have unneeded interceptions. Make Arizona earn every turnover or interception that they get. And that probably will be the determining factor, because if the defense can pressure Palmer, get the ball out of his hands earlier than he wants, and Hoyer protects the ball and know who he should throw to, when he should throw to him, that'll put the 49ers in a position to at least have a chance to win in the end.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. If Brian Hoyer can get any kind of protection, and I'm hoping to see Hoyer being able to get the ball out quickly. I don't want to see instances like we have occasionally where he'll hold on to the ball too long and take a sack. I hope that they have, especially on 3rd and short when Arizona likes to blitz, I hope that they are able to get the ball out much faster than in the last couple of weeks. That'll bode well. And so one of my key players on the 49ers offense is going to be the tight end, George Kittle. I think he can get a couple of mismatches with those linebackers. I think he might be a guy that they could look to, for short intermediate routes, and perhaps even some more intermediate and deeper routes, not going real long, but 15 yards down the field over the middle, to exploit that defense as they try to focus on Marquise Goodwin and Pierre Garçon, and also to try to stop the run. I think George Kittle could really be a key guy in this game to get some key yardage, and maybe even along with Garrett Selleck, as he scored last week. I'm hoping the tight ends could be a bit of a problem for the Cardinals this week.
Yeah, that's a great point that you just made with the tight end, because one, that will prevent Tyrann Mathieu from jumping the corner route, jumping the out route and undercutting, maybe making the interception, because that tight end is going to hold that safety.
Right.
So it's going to be very, very interesting how he is used in this game. And that can actually not shut Mathieu down, but it can neutralize him. That's why it's so important for Hoyer to not give away where he's going to throw it, look the safeties off so he can get the ball in there to those guys on those deep third routes. Because the middle of the field, if the tight end can hold the safety, the middle of the field will be open. But I tell you what, he's going to be so key. And if he doesn't, then let's get the ball to the tight end and let's make them respect it. That's going to be a huge key that you mentioned.
Yeah, making them respect, other guys on the field. I mean, they know that Garçon is a good receiver, and Marquise Goodwin at least has the ability to make the big play. He was able to bring one in last week. Hopefully, he can do that again and exploit the weaker end of that secondary. And if they could get any kind of a big play like that and being able to frustrate linebackers and keep Tyrann Mathieu away from some of the routes that they want to run, maybe with Trent Taylor and other guys like that, that'll go a long way, because what you want to do, Hoyer's an efficient quarterback. It's a tough environment in Arizona. I went to an Arizona Cardinals game against the 49ers back in 2014. It's a tough place to play. It's a loud stadium. The fans really do get into it, and Hoyer's got to be able to put out the noise, and he's going to need hot reads. He's going to need shorter routes to just kind of keep that defense from teeing off on him, and that's where the tight end, shorter routes like from Trent Taylor and Pierre Garçon, and maybe even guys out of the backfield like the fullback Kyle Juszczyk and also Carlos Hyde in the backfield. Getting that ball out quickly, getting those short routes to keep those defenders honest, I think is going to be the key of this game. I don't think Hoyer's going to be able to I don't think they're going to take a lot of deep shots. They're going to have to rely on just confusing the defense and keeping them on the field a long time.
Yeah, well, you just summarized the offensive game plan, so all the 49ers need to do now is execute it. They'll be all right.
Right.
That's it.
That's right.
I'm telling you,
that easy,
that is
right?
it. I'm telling you, that's that easy, and adjust when needed.
Right. So I think we we brought up a lot of the key matchups, and there are going to be some challenges here. Arizona is not just going to lay down. This division is wide open. Seattle's 1-2. The Rams are 2-1. The Cardinals are 0-2, and the Niners are 0-3. It's a wide open division, and so the Cardinals know that if they want to have a chance to get back to the playoffs, Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald's careers are winding down. They know that. They want to get back in the playoffs one more time and give those guys one more shot, at getting to the Super Bowl. And so I don't think they'll get to the Super Bowl, but these guys aren't going to just lay down. The Niners are going to have to do a lot to win a game like this.
Yeah. And you know what? You just mentioned something. You said that the division is wide open.
Yeah.
Now, you know what? The 49ers, you never know.
Yep.
They could catch momentum. They still have another game against Seattle. They have another game against the Rams.
Yep.
They have this and another game against, the Cardinals. So if they catch momentum, you know what? They got just as good a chance. Now, we talked about the possibilities of what their record might be.
Yeah.
And I talked about if they could go, my expectations is, I believe that, 500 would be great for this year.
Yeah,
but with the way the division is going, oh man, I remember, I believe it was 92, we went, let's see, we were 10, I can't recall, I think we were 10-3. I can't remember. I blame it on concussion, my man. But nonetheless, it was the year. It was the only time we did not make the playoffs.
Oh, 91.
So we had,
yeah.
Yes, but we had so much momentum.
Yeah.
Nobody, if we'd have got in the playoffs, nobody wanted to see us.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. But this is a year where so far in the first 4 games, the record in this division, I mean, anybody can come out of it, even if you're 0-3.
Oh, they're not out of it at all.
Absolutely. You just have to beat up on each other. So what I'm saying is they catch momentum early enough, they got just as good a chance as anybody of winning 10 games and being a wild card.
Right. I mean, the Rams, they have to go to Dallas this week. If the Niners beat the Cardinals, all of a sudden you're looking at first place team will be 2-2, and the Niners would be 1-3. They'd be one game out, and they're going to Indianapolis next week, who is a highly questionable team without Andrew Luck out there. I mean, they're right where the 49ers are on a lot of ratings. So I mean, they're very much in this, and they've gotten some of the difficult games out of the way already.
Absolutely. I know we'll talk about Indianapolis next week, but Brissett seems to be getting into a groove very, very quickly with Indianapolis, which doesn't make it easy for the Niners. But nonetheless, we'll talk about that then. But focus on now and position yourself to where, hey, if it stays a competitive division like it is now, I'm sure Kyle Shanahan is preaching to them. Yeah, it's one game at a time. Let's focus on now. Let later take care of his stuff then. But trust me, they aren't overlooking the fact that guys, we're still in it.
Right.
We're still in it. And we're getting better. We're playing better. Things are beginning to come together. So, again, there's a lot to this here.
Yeah, and then, when Reuben Foster comes back, I mean, to me, Reuben Foster is the biggest potential high-impact defensive player that the Niners have. He is a guy that could potentially take over games. And getting him back in the lineup is going to be huge. Especially, they're on the road against the Colts and the Redskins. Those are winnable games. But we got to focus on this game first. If they could get if they could somehow find a way to get their first win, you just never know what'll happen.
Absolutely. And you know who Reuben Foster reminds me of?
Who's that?
Not based on the position, but being a rookie and the impact and the leadership and the ability for guys to follow them. He reminds me so much in '94 of William Floyd when he came in.
Yeah.
And William Floyd came in, and you know what? He earned the right. He earned the right to be called bar none, the best fullback in Pro Bowl bar none before he ever stepped on a field in the pro.
Right.
but his teammates, through his practice and training camp and him earning the starting job, one, proved that, you know what he had done in college and the attitude he had and, you know, the bravado he had, you can't miss it. And that's the type of player I see Reuben Foster as. You know, veteran or not, you see this guy as a difference maker. And that year, Williams was a big, big part of us going to the Super Bowl and winning. And that's what I see in Foster. I'm not saying he's going to take him to the Super Bowl this year, but I'm telling you what, I see Foster being a big-time leader on this team and where they're going in the very near future.
Boy, you know, I really had not considered it like that. That is really a fantastic point, because what William Floyd brought to the Niners was a fiery attitude and toughness. The Niners were always a tough team, but I don't think they were viewed as a really tough team. They were viewed as the high-flying offense, and they always had the label of finesse. But when William Floyd brought toughness and leadership and a veteran swagger about him, and then when you put him with Ricky Waters,
absolutely.
We've talked stories about that in the past.
That's right, and you got the perfect backfield combination to go with John Taylor on the outside, Jerry Wright, and Brent Jones, and Steve Young. I mean, it was exceptional. It was awesome and a great experience for me to be involved in, and a great time for the 49ers. So I think, again, that's the impact I think he's going to have in his very young career moving forward. How fast the team as a whole gets there will be how they continue to progress and get better, him staying healthy, and other guys living up to their expectations or the team's expectations on what they can be as individuals and as a team.
Right. Yeah, I think Reuben Foster really brings a lot of that same swagger. He brings toughness. He brings big playability, and you don't want to go over the middle on him because he's going to hit you.
I'm telling you. And he can intercept the ball.
Yep.
I'm telling you. I'm not giving Nick Saban all this, glorification, but I see one thing. He brings in players that he can evaluate, visualize on how he can prepare them to be NFL ready, body-wise, athletic-wise, and Reuben Foster is right up that alley. One, when he came into Alabama, he was being prepared from day one. Nutrition, physical, in the classroom, on the field, on being exactly what the 49ers need him to be right now. And that's what Coach Bowden did. That's what Jimbo Fisher does. You look over a long time with Florida State, but let's just say since Jimbo got such a Nick Saban influence in him, look over the last 7 years at Florida State and Alabama, and not just look at the players that were drafted, because it's a great number of them, but look at the ones who have come in and being NFL ready and actually performed well, the ones who are starting, who are playing a lot. I mean, so I'm just trying to point things out why Foster is ready right now, the way William Floyd was. Yes, his athletic ability obviously stands out, but you got to prepare, you got to fill that body out, you got to have the right nutrition, you got to lift weights the right way to build certain muscles, and that's what got Foster where he is right now. So it's no surprise to me that he's NFL ready and making the impact. And as far as the attitude and the personality, that's him. He had that when he came to Alabama. So
right.
I got to give him, he had that. That's why it's easy for him to have people follow him, because they see the realness in his play on the field, his preparation, and his ability to help take them to the next level.
No question about it. Reuben Foster is going to be an impact player for years to come. And it's going to be really great to see how that defense plays, how they elevate when he returns. So hopefully, this week in Arizona, they can find a way to grind out a win. It doesn't matter if they win by 1 point or double digits, if they can just find a way to win this game, this could change things in the NFC West, because it doesn't look like to be a very, very strong division right now. Seattle is not the same team. Arizona, they could be dropping off as well, especially if the Niners find a way to beat them in their building. So you just never know, and that's what we want to see. This is the kind of year where you want to see, you just like. I think that is what I want, hopefully, to be able to say a lot this year is you just never know how this is going to play out, and they're going to have their chances, and that's what we want.
Right. And I'll sum it up as far as taking advantage of your chances and opportunities like this. You see the defensive back drop the ball that's right in his hands, or you see a receiver that just drops the ball that man was put right there. Then all of a sudden, they end up losing by 3 or 6. But if that play was made, the drive continued, or the touchdown is made, or whatever, the 49ers and Cardinals right now, in the situation they're down, they're starting running back. Yes, they're playing a hostile environment, but they play Arizona again later. Take advantage of it now that they're down a little bit, rather than the next time you play them when the starting running back may be back, and all of a sudden they're just a more tough team to try to beat. So don't let this opportunity slip through your fingers. Prepare the best that you can, which I know that they are. Understand that every possession counts.
Yep.
And again, as I always say, convert on third down, score touchdowns in the red zone. But hey, if you have to get 3, as long as you score, get some points. But try to score touchdowns in the red zone as an offense. And then let the defense do what they do. And we've already talked about what we think they should do. Take advantage of it now. Don't let it slip through your fingers, because that next game with Arizona might be the determining factor whether you're going to be in that wild card spot or not.
Yep, I think you're right. I think you summed it up pretty well. This is a big game. Every possession counts, and I think they're going to have their chances. So hopefully, we're going to see them come out on top.
Absolutely.
Well, everyone, we're going to be signing off here in just a little bit. So hopefully, we'll all be able to watch the 49ers find a way to win a game against the Arizona Cardinals, and then from there they got 2 more games on the road. So hopefully this little road trip, not little road trip, it's kind of a big road trip, 3 in a row. Hopefully this goes well and they can grow and just continue to get better each week. So hopefully everybody gets to enjoy the game, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll be definitely back with you next week. So for Dexter Carter, I'm Matt Andruscavage. You've been listening to the 49er Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, where the legends speak.